It's recording. So
It
this
is.
is the intro where it's like, this is the shorts that we play back later.
Yeah.
And go, how did that go?
Yeah.
Thanks, Christina. All your fault. It's all for you, Christina.
The beginning.
The beginnings.
You know, the journey,
The journey.
the learning, you know, the training, the learning, the...
Was it easier being an I've read of the podcast than the one actually having to do the podcast and the responsibility?
Yes.
Was it easier being the guest?
Yes.
The true question is, if you had a choice today and I said to you, do you want to go run 100 miles right now or do the podcast? Would you choose?
That's an
It'd be
interesting
like,
question.
let me put the Crocs on.
Yeah.
No, you don't get to change your shoes.
No,
You have to do it in the Crocs.
That's it. It's time to go.
Then Carmack or something style.
From the door.
Yeah, it's right.
Doing blocks of
Just
Unitera.
loops of the driveway.
Back to the aid station.
Get into it. I'm going to hurt smiling. Maybe I'm distracting myself from starting.
That's okay.
So I can see what I'm looking at. All right, cool.
We'll just start.
Here we go.
3, 2, 1.
Every trail runner has a first step, as usually it's not pretty. I'm Michael Bilboe, and with me co-hosting is Joshua Wiffen. Together, we've spent countless hours running trails, ultras, some of us backyards, and everything in between. If you know Josh or I, it only takes an idea, and somehow the next minute we are deep in an adventure.
3 weeks ago, mid-run, a quick SMS landed us here today. So here we are. We took our first step. It may not be pretty, just like an ultra, but we are here for the journey. Welcome to
Endless Trails.
We hope this podcast will bring you closer to the stories, the journey of the highs, lows, and a little bit of the madness of trail running.
Over the coming months, we'll bring to you a series of podcasts on the foundations of trail running, whether it's training, nutrition, mindset, recovery, and so forth. But we're going to be here to change it up a little bit. We'll have you going through gear walkthroughs, mental gear check-ins, and even some little adventures that we're going to have out there for you.
We also have some one-on-ones with some trail runners and special guests to share their insights to their journey. It won't always be the Strava local legends, but a local legend in our eyes.
Of course, we'll bring you some of those other insights of events that are out on our radar. Okay, let's get into this.
Today, we're kicking off with our own beginnings, the origins, how we stumbled, sweated, and eventually fell in love with the Endless Trail.
Where?
The journey never ends.
That's right. So, where does the journey start?
It's a good point. I was thinking about this actually, you know, because we're both sort of late life athletes, right? The reality of our running journey, we're not the high school superstars who then continued. We're our like legit what this is, this whole thing came, you know, in our 30s.
Mm-hmm.
But I was sort of thinking, so what's your earliest memory pre that, like back in high school, like what or you know, before that?
A lot of people have that little idea of where they sort of go, was I a runner when I was back in high school, all those types of things. Look, I just remember doing cross country probably in sort of infants, you know, primary school, doing a couple cross countries and not going too bad with it off the district. And that was about it. Then it got packed up and went, I don't know, head into a life of playing other sports, basketball and a few things like that. But running never came back after that, you know, really until later in my life. For me, that started, I tore my Achilles playing cricket. And then really the recovery process around that got me back into the gym, into trying to get my, I suppose movement again going. And, you know, I think I started, you know, running on the treadmill, and that sort of started the process of running. And I spent a lot of my time in the gym running, not outdoors. So it wasn't actually for quite a while. It could have been a few months. And then I went outside and started to run outside. But behind all that, there was also the start of like park runs and a few different things like that as well. Joining probably around that sort of time, ran into a few different runners, what other things were around. And that's probably about the time that I started with Savvy Fitness, and they had a run program. So I thought Gold Coast Marathon. run program, ran into ANSAV around that sort of time. It's like, okay, this is something I can sort of set the foundations of doing some running in a sort of set format. That was probably the first start of what I was doing. What about yourself, Josh?
Yeah, little bit of a different journey. Like I remember, same sort of start. They throw you into the cross countries when you're younger, and knowing training that I know now versus back then, how they throw you into it at school is insane.
Yeah.
It's just cross country's coming up in 4 weeks. Let's go for a run.
Yeah. around the playground.
Full.
Yeah.
And I came from much less sporty sort of area. I remember sort of just being probably a little bit embarrassed about running, or and being certainly back of the pack to the point where if I'd sign up for cross country, well, you had to sign up for cross country. I'd sort of sign up in an age group that was younger than mine.
Just sneak it in.
Just try and fake it in. Always ended up walking it in at the back of the pack anyway. So then moving up, the running was really never part of my life, except when the occasional thing I'd have to get out for a run when I was going insane for emotional turmoil or whatever. Rollerblading, going to breakdancing, all that sort of stuff. Structured sports, not so much.
Very similar.
Yes, that's right. And that's because that's what I was thinking about. I know a little bit of rollerblading history and stuff too.
True.
But so that was not really structured at all. And then moved up through skateboarding, breakdance. Like I said, breakdancing was a big part of my life for a while, and then sort of stuff fell off. And then there was not overly anything really structured in terms of sport or anything for quite a while. And then had a bit of a change of life. A few crazy things sort of happened, and a friend of mine said, "Hey, I've got this free pass. Come and join this outdoor fitness group." I was like, well, okay.
First class turn up, nerves, just like doing a podcast.
100%. 100%. It's like, I don't know what this is all about. I don't know. And it's interesting, like with that school connection, right? The sporty kids and that's like they were their own thing, right? Late 80s, early 90s, it was there's the sporty people who were superstars and go and do like district and getting medals and all that, and then there was me and my less sporty parts going, oh well, that typical Hollywood movie, nerds versus jocks sort of thing, and it just wasn't part of my world. But then you get to this, and I think things have changed now. Or I don't know. I'm not a teenager in the world, but I think there are some changes. But when when we got to that adult sort of stage, and you get into that adult fitness piece, and you get to your park runs and trail running and that sort of stuff, it becomes a lot more inclusive, and it isn't about the superheroes and the superstars versus
it's not even there. It's not even an item. That you have this. There's a perception that you can have. And obviously these are the things that, we're here to try to break that down and try to open that up so that, people that are wanting to get into trail running or starting that sort of foundation is like, taking that fear, because whether it's, again, if it's social media or those things that are out there, it's in your face, and it's always, that top tier content. So you have this idea around about all these things that you got to do before you actually get out there and start. And obviously part of this is, talking about how our journey, when we first started was just, it's not by accident, but it's just by a process and events that have occurred. And then the next second you're deep into, an endless journey, to where we are, to today talking about it as well. Probably both of us had that sort of midlife, let's change if something's occurred, like I've had work, family, things that have been in place, and then something's occurred that sort of changed the mindset over what you're doing, whether it's self-health, or an injury or something for recovery, and then that's sort of throwing you into an interest. So for those that don't know, obviously Josh and I both met through Savvy Fitness.
Correct.
And there was two things sort of happening at that same time. I think I was starting think to go into a little bit of marathon running, and this is around 2014, I think. And yourself, I think you might have been looking to do a marathon, or you were training towards a marathon, but it was only a small window of
Oh, it
crossover because I
was.
think I went off and did Gold Coast at that time, and you might not have gone. I don't think you went to Gold Coast.
So yeah, it was interesting because I joined
Yeah,
the crew and had no idea about running. And they throw you into the interval sessions and
yeah,
the
speed
tempo
sets,
session.
yeah,
And
long runs.
my opinion was always like, going to a class for running's kind of ridiculous
Yeah,
because they just go, this is the set course,
yeah,
7Ks, go and run.
yeah,
Like, why am I paying money for that?
yeah,
That's stupid. But the interval stuff I really
yeah,
enjoyed and sort of, took off. And I kind of thought I was doing it wrong for a bit because I'd, hammer it out and
yeah.
then sort of look around and no one was around
Whereas,
me. I'm like,
yeah,
am I doing this right?
yeah, but that's a different like a different approach. Whereas mine was about creating a repeated, I suppose, consistency of having something to go to.
Yeah.
So that I'd turn up and I'd be there, and there would be other people. Then all of a sudden, you start to get connections with people and go, oh, there are people at my level that are interested in what I'm at. Well, at that stage, what I'm trying to get an insight to, and I'm looking at other runners that are around and going, actually, what are they doing? And they're pretty similar to me, around the same age group at that point in time. And then that sort of creates the follow up. You go back again and you go back again, and sometimes you are trying to hang on the back of someone or get quicker, and you can see that that progression of fitness that's happening
Absolutely.
at that time
And
as
it
well.
and it is that methodical approach of, yes, you've got something to turn up to, you've got the
Yeah,
people to
and a bit
turn
of
up to.
accountability.
Yeah,
I'll see you Tuesday or Saturday or what that's going to be, and go out for an adventure. That that was 2014, so that's over a decade
yeah,
ago. Lots of things, I suppose the difference around gear and shoes and all those types of things obviously so different, but it was just about turning up and going for a run.
absolutely.
No Strava,
No.
no watch it, like
Well, that's it.
watches.
Like,
Yeah,
I remember signing up to the first, like, because they did do the push with the
yeah,
run program,
yep,
and signing up to the first run program. And I remember I had no idea what a marathon was.
yeah,
I actually asked Alicia at the time. I said, so do you do marathons? And what I had in my head
yeah,
was, like, probably more akin to a triathlon,
yeah,
like you run, you swim, you bike, or like
yeah,
that's what a
yeah,
marathon is.
yeah,
Had no idea. And she was like, oh, I do, a marathon once every 2
yeah,
years, maybe.
yeah,
And thought, oh, okay, so I'll check this out. Signed up to the run program and thought, oh, marathon's a bit wild. I'll do sort of the half. No, actually, I thought I'll do the marathon, but Andrew was like, oh, maybe we'll start you on the half marathon.
yeah.
We'll see
Okay.
how that goes.
Well, they did obviously know you too well.
Exactly.
Oh,
So, and that's exactly right. Like, signed up, and I think when I jump into something, it's
we'll work it out later.
yeah, 100 kph. Let's go.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, so I trained to that half
Yeah.
and went up to Gold Coast, and I think, I'm pretty
So
sure
it must be the year. Well, I don't know if it was that year or the year before. So it must be. Yeah, I just don't remember us actually ever running and racing and training
no,
together.
not
But
at
like
that
I saw,
time.
Josh, like, oh yeah, what's he going on? He's running around about sort of the same speed, and that, and then it just never really happened to be a consistent
No,
crossover.
because I did the Goldie half, and then which I didn't know it was bad at the time, but Kurt actually had a half for Sydney ticket
Yeah,
or bib, and he's like, oh, I can't make it. Who wants it? And he
Yeah.
just gave it to me, and I went and ran under his name.
Yeah.
Wouldn't do that again.
There's no internet
better
to
now.
track you. That's okay. No Strava records to worry about.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah.
There's nothing like
Yeah.
I had no idea about the world of running or
Yeah.
anything. But I did those. Then I signed up and trained the marathon program. But I couldn't make it to. So that was, I just ran it myself.
I was just going to say, you
Ran
did
around
that
the lake.
locally. That's right. So I think at somewhere this stage, because that got planted in my head at some stage about doing a run around the lake.
Yes,
So
it's
that-
perfect.
yeah.
And there's one of those things I've always had in my mind. I'd love to do this as
Just
an official
it's there
thing.
and
It's
get it
exactly
around
42.2 if you do it right.
I just did it in 2 goes, not in 1. So who, like, back then, who were you running with in sort of the groups? So, long run training, do you remember sort of who were in that sort of the group runs?
Yeah, good question. Because I was going to say, like, I remember, I don't know whether I was talking to you
Yeah.
or I was listening
Yeah.
because they had the pace charts, right? And grouping people together,
Yeah.
But I remember being there at one point, and so you must have been, one or two down for the marathon at that stage, and talking about the Gold Coast specifically, and then coming, and it's funny in context now, right? Because talking about coming to the bridge, and you were talking about how you get to that bridge, and then that slight rise was just like, oh, you're climbing a mountain, and then you get to that back end because you got to come back to the thing, and then you go back, and then that last little bit, arms are falling off and legs are falling. I was like, I'm like, oh, right, that's that's wild.
crazy time. So I think back then, around then was probably Matahi, and Dave Moore. So the three of us were. I was on the back of those two chasing. They were chasing 3:30 continuously, and I think it took us all a very long time, but there was always that sort of 3:30. When you're running 5 minutes at a pace, that 3:30 has always been a bit of a goal for runners. That once you sort of start, you peg some mindset that's out there. So Savvy sort of became a little bit of a meeting ground, I think, for a lot of, we're from the Illawarra, from our perspective. So run club wise, park run was only probably starting a few years sort of around and after that sort of time. But that happened to be probably the KJs was obviously something else that was around, but it seemed to be the running sort of group that we were connected to. So what did your sort of journey look like? So then the evolution of that. So we're obviously talking about trails and those types of things, but where did that sort of first start, changing from road into trail?
Yeah, super interesting. It's kind of a little bit blurry, but I remember probably the first real trail run I did was part of the run program. They took us all up and we did Mount Kembla.
Yeah.
Remember?
They do,
it's like a 14K,
right.
I think.
Yeah.
And so that was just like, I guess for a bit of different optimization.
A bit of hills in the legs as well. Yeah. Okay.
And so I was running, and that's what I think I was running a little bit like Brendan was.
Yeah, Brendan Hall.
Yeah. Brendan was, and I was kind of there, and Brendan, and I've never been really competitive, but I remember Brendan's like, always trying to race me. So that was,
and there was no records of segments.
No, that's exactly.
There's no proof.
Segment. No,
I wish there was.
You just go and do whatever.
Weekly honours. That's about it.
Yeah.
So I remember that now because
that's probably the
where
first.
Did we park? I thought we had a feeling we actually parked down the bottom, not even the lookout car park.
No, it's completely different to how we do it now.
Yeah.
So parked at Ruby's.
And you had to climb all the way. So it was a big climb.
Big road section. And then onto the trail, and depending on what distance you were doing, Mark had the truck sort of halfway, so that'd be a turnaround point for some people. The rest of us went to the gate
back then too. We're talking about the far gate. So Mount Kembla for from our perspective is the lookout sort of, and the back trails out west is what we're talking. And this is going back now 10 years, literally 10 years, and doing some of those, but. And I don't know, I didn't really I like that, but I didn't attach that into my trail running. That wasn't something at that point in time that sort of changed my angle. So you did some of those. But then how did that evolve?
And then I was always disappointed. Like I remember a distinct point, it gets sort of to that end of run season, and we had this regular Sunday runs, I'm pretty sure. Was it Sundays or Saturdays?
Mornings.
Saturday mornings. We have this, and the run club. And then it ends, and then there's no support for that anymore. But you're like, but what do we do for it? And so then you try and hold it together for a little bit. So we started, building a little bit of a network to do that, but then people would fall off. And then somehow I just discovered that, because that 42.2 is that thing that everyone's like, that's the gold standard, that's the grail, that sort of thing. So I was like, and like I said, I didn't even know what a marathon was.
So I suppose if that's what you're alluding into, is that all I knew about was a marathon.
Absolutely.
I know I triathlon or other sports that are around, but nothing more than
That's
doing a
it.
marathon.
That was my knowledge.
Yeah.
So if you didn't grow in that and weren't part
in
of
that circle and know what was actually
like I said,
out there.
Kid from the Housing Commission who came up had no idea of any like sporting at all. You know, it was never part of my life. Other than seeing those superstar kids doing stuff, right?
Yeah.
I don't even know how it happened, but then I heard that marathon's not it. Like people do 100 Ks, and at that time, that's all. Like I didn't even hear of anything bigger than that. But I was like, whoa! Like in my head, 100 Ks.
What are you talking about? Yeah,
that's ruthless. I want to do that.
Yeah,
and so then I sort of started to research it a bit, and because that was the time of North Face 100. Which rebranded now, of course. And so I was like, let's jump into that. And doing that half marathon and marathon training, I remember I ran around the lake by myself, tried to do that hard, and I was aiming sub 3:30, and got around, like started from Port Kembla, Warrawong, ran around, got to about Oak Flats area, and bang, my knee was cooked, and I'd crying, like limping, walking, trying to run, walk.
So there's got to be an insight to this, because obviously we're now talking self-supported.
Yes.
No, probably no. I don't know. Knowing you, what are gels?
Yeah.
So maybe no gels. Or goo, but I don't know. Depends what was around back then. I know I was on enduro and a few different things back then. But like how where's the hydration happening?
Yeah, well, and this is the interesting thing, right? Because I started looking into that stuff, and everyone had the marathon belt, right, with the 2 or 4 little
flasks in,
gel. And I was like, that sounds dumb. Like, it just feels like that will like bump on my hips. And I'm like, that's dumb. There's got to be a better way. And so looked into handhelds. I was like, that's a thing. That's interesting. So then I found through some weird research, these hydration vests. So I was probably one of the first one. Like, I'm not saying I was the first one, but one of the first people in Wollongong who would have went, because I was like, that makes sense to me.
All I remember is a vest and tights. That's all I know Josh for.
That was me. And no shorts over the tights. No,
just pure tights.
Just bulging out. Let's go.
It was, and a headband. Lucky for some. I was looking for some photos, obviously, and they were the type of things that were coming up. And I'm like, I don't know if they're appropriate, or we'll just leave those packed away. So that's how you tackle the marathon. Trail vest, Mount Kembla. Where does this end up then really getting into, and the 100, obviously you've come across.
Yes.
Without jumping into major race sort of mode, was there a transition that was occurring sort of through that as well? Like, how do you start to get into finding trails and those types of things? So what was that sort of first change of gear or shift?
Yeah, so that, like, I think there's probably a blend of parkrun, because I'd go to Shell Harbour. And so, okay, cool, I'll go down and check that out. The original loop, which was amazing, they don't do that anymore.
Well, I need to do the original loop. I haven't been on it.
No, same. I haven't done that. And the original loop was great, flying fast start because it's downhill. And then pull up on the sand. And then struggling through hills.
Have to grind back up the hills, back around, and then a flat finish. To try to punch it. So I think the photo that we shared during the week, last week, was one of those photos when we were finished. So it looked pretty fresh and young.
Yes.
For 5Ks back then. So that got into a little bit of the trail sort of mode, but then how did that build up into that sort of next sort of stage?
And again,
more awareness of trails.
Like me, 1 to 100, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Found out about the 100. Yeah. And I went, I want to do that.
Okay.
And then I thought, but knowing told that the marathon training and the commitment to the marathon training, I looked at the 100 and thought, well, marathon, single parent.
Yep.
I think marathon training takes a lot of time. 100's got to take even more, right?
Yeah.
So I went, I want to do that.
Yeah.
But maybe that's hard, right?
Yeah.
Like, again, there's no like online resources really.
There's no training plans to find. There's some hard paperback books.
Don't know anyone who's done it. didn't know the WDRC boys at that time, or didn't know that they
were doing or even existed in that context. Yeah.
So it was just like, so found the 50K and went, oh well, that's just a little bit more than the marathon. Yeah. So I'll just theoretically.
And we haven't run we've done 5K trails.
Yeah.
Not marathon trails.
No, that's right.
We'll get into that type of conversation of conversion of road to trail as well.
Big difference.
So came across it, saw a big goal that was further than what you felt was comfortable.
Yeah.
So
I know different now.
Something that scares you, like that's, I suppose, the approach of going, hey, there's something that's out there that's way outside my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I'll set that as a goal.
Yeah.
And probably maybe one of the first times that you haven't gone headfirst into it and gone building blocks into how to approach that over probably what would be more than a year because of how picking the race and then picking the next one. So that leads probably around 2016. Or sort of started 2014, 2015, 2016, which sort of aligns to where I've started my first trail race as well, which ended up being the UTA 50. Even though I don't think we hit that together.
No.
They're doing. I remember Matahi was, I think, also doing trail, and a number of other sort of people, from the lead into it. But that was the first time that we went into a major. Was that your first trail race?
Yeah.
So prior to that,
notoriously I'll do, one event a year, sort of usually. And so I said that and I went, okay, that's like 50Ks, but then on trails is, I guess, let's just do it.
Yeah. Okay.
And then realize that, hang on, we've got these trails right here at our doorstep.
Yeah.
So I'll just start, I'll take that training methodology that we've done in the marathon and then, do a little bit of research, found a book at the library and, sussed out a few things there and just went, okay, well, I'll head up Mount Kira and see how that goes.
And just went, so that then opens the door. So the conversation that then becomes, because it's interesting because how you find the trails, and this is part of, that journey and getting the door open and how do you start becoming comfortable with what trails are around. Obviously today you can look up apps, you can look up, different types of resources that are available.
Exactly.
So,
but then
what introduced that doorway?
I had no idea.
Yeah.
There was no,
it was like, look at the mountain and just head up and look at the ground and go, there's a trail. Like, how did you then start, like how to navigate, around Mount Kira, all those types of trails?
Yeah. Well, I guess one of the first thing I remember, one of the first trails I remember is heading straight up the uni stairs.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and because we already had that, road training sort of thing, methodology, it was just sort of running on the road and then heading up the uni stairs. Yeah. And just, what's up here?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And then, looking into, at that time, it would have been uni stairs, Kira Ring Trail.
Okay.
And that's it.
It's okay, because there's a map here. I can follow this around and come back around the other side and head back down again.
Yeah, because there's signage there, and you probably don't have to look too far to realise that that's there.
Yeah.
And okay, I'll head up, and that probably would have been all it was. So doing sort of a long run would have been a loop around the harbour or something, straight up the uni stairs,
so
do the ring track, and then belting down Mount Kira Road,
Robson's Road, or
along Robson's. And just sort of doing that, and then you get comfortable with it. You
start exploring a little, or a double or something, and start coming off the trails when got you.
And so you just sort of like, and I guess I became real explorer.
So a bit of self-exploratory component, and then obviously whether you've been out for yourself or other people, and that sort of probably built out from that side of it.
Yeah.
So I had a tease to Killer Lee and other events that are around, and then obviously still connected in the savvy sort of framework of people was like, introduced, that there's trails out the back of, Bulli, and you go to a broker's run and it's like, there's a broker's, what's this? And then you're basically doing an escarpment run.
Yeah.
And then I think that's where the momentum of doing Killer runs and a bit of trails, and then it was the same scenario where, UTA came along and was like, "No, okay, there is something, at 50."
Yeah,
But I probably had banked 3 marathons a year, and then
absolutely.
really different that you get to the point, I'm doing this and I'm doing this again and again, and then it's like, what else is out there to do? And it was the same, I think, scenario where there was, oh, it was a 50. This is only a little bit more than a marathon. And same scenario that knowing at that race event that there was 100, but I didn't have the 100 on my radar that first time
Mm,
that I did it. But for the local trail exploration, it really just became a bit of a connection with different people through Savvy that started that exploration through the local trails. And I spent most of my time at that stage, a little bit at Brokers, coming from Bulli, but then the rest of it was at Otford, heading
yeah.
from the national park, heading north, um, and I had never been to Kira, even though lived locally right underneath it for a long time. So I probably didn't
Yeah.
get to Kira. I know you introduced me to Kira, but it was like a good 5 years before I actually went to do any running around Kira. The
Yeah.
rest of it was all up. My long runs were top of Sublime, all that sort of fair hike to get there. But that's where a lot of my trail running sort of the roots of
Yeah.
exploratory. And I think it was because I was running with people that lived around that area at that time.
Yeah, because I was, and I probably still to this day am the opposite. Like I'm always around Mount Kira, Mount Kembla,
Yeah.
and occasionally head up to Brokers or a bit further
Yeah.
north.
Yes. Sometimes ease of access is, and who you're with, and then you want to go for a bit of an explore in a
Yeah,
different area. Yeah. So in the middle of that area, I think, we're talking about this the other day about that introduction of the running community or connections that were sort of in that space, because also people are off doing their items, and it's not until you run into someone, it's, oh, you're from Illawarra or Wollongong, and there's a connection that's going on. And I think that was probably around when WDRC and Wollongong Distance Running Club.
yeah,
So I think we probably came across it at the back half
yeah.
of when it was in its sort of its prime.
Because I'm pretty sure
Um,
that's how you got to know Craig,
yeah,
Craig Mayo,
yeah,
Craig Barras.
yeah,
Jess was on at the time,
yeah.
and Ryan.
Yes. Yeah, Matt,
And
Kurt. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
Matt and Kurt.
connections. So
And
th
Kurt was like superstar.
that's
I
yeah.
remember him because he was on Savvy for a little
Yeah.
bit,
Yeah,
and he
yeah.
was doing
And even as himself, and I know his mum was
yeah,
doing races as well. And then I think
yeah,
that's what I was seeing on Facebook and going, what's all these other things that are out there? And guy's got trunks, legs. I'm like, okay, well, it's a whole nother, experience that's out there. And I think that's when they ran as a bloody nose. The
yeah,
Brokers, it was like a triple climb from the back of I don't know if it's back of Blamby, but that sort of area.
yeah, sort of that more
The lower
Fairy
escarpment.
Meadow
Yeah,
Coramel area,
yeah.
Taraji, I think
Yeah,
that's
the
what
back
it
of
is.
lowers.
Yeah,
And then it was a
which is
climb
blocked off now. Like you can't go that
that
way
way.
anymore.
Yeah. And you go to Brokers
Yeah.
and then back down again. And it was a triple. I think it worked out to be 50 Ks roughly. When
Because I
doing,
remember hearing about it, but I didn't get in on it for
yeah,
some
okay.
reason.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember doing the first year, I said I went
or maybe I
longer.
did one lap.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember the next time I was like, I'm only doing one. It was, yeah, it was a bit full on. And credit too, because at that stage I was like, seeing them all doing it and just going, oh wow, I aspire to be able to go do that, and not knowing the trails and things that are around, it's like, geez, we should be able to go do that, every week, and how to sort of fit that into life and the training sort of goals. And that's I suppose that's the vibes that's all that connectivity, and when you're involved with a great crew of people which are all supportive of everything that's actually
Community
happening.
building.
Yeah, it just comes normal. Like
Yeah.
it's natural to what's actually occurring. And that's part of, when we talk about the trail, crew, community connection, and, the support that goes into, seeing people doing those long runs. And
It's enjoyable, and
Yeah.
it can take you back to that moment.
and then you've obviously got new connections, I suppose. So what other sort of connections or connectivity did you have that sort of kept heading you towards the trail engagement?
Ooh, I think, hearing other people's journeys too. I remember Carl,
Yeah.
like, fast Carl, not
Yeah.
store
Yeah, yeah,
Carl,
yeah, yeah.
going and doing the
Yeah,
comrades marathon.
gotcha,
It's
which
like,
is yeah,
oh,
yeah,
what's this? You
tough
start doing a
ones.
little bit of
Yeah,
research, finding what books you can. There's, not a lot of books around at the
yeah,
time. I remember finding Barefoot Runner's Handbook,
yeah, yeah,
reading through that, and even giving the barefoot thing a crack at one
yeah,
point, and like just picking up little bits and pieces. So, oh,
yeah,
you try this, you try
yeah,
that, but then connecting other people and
yeah,
getting other people psyched on it.
yeah,
So, like I said, going into that first 50K
yeah,
event, no idea, and going into it thinking, I know nothing. All these people are superheroes
yeah,
who know
yeah,
everything about trails. I stood at the back of the pack,
yeah,
at the back of the wave,
yeah.
in the last wave, and just went,
Let everyone go,
I'll just
yeah,
follow, and I'll
yeah,
just, take it as it
yeah,
comes. And that's been that's, I guess, an allegory for the journey, just sort
yeah,
of
yeah,
listening, watching,
yeah,
jumping onto things,
yeah,
and trying to get through that head game of that imposter
yeah,
syndrome, and
yeah.
oh, they must know stuff, or they must know
Yeah, and
stuff.
that's an internal battle that obviously continues in any sort of training, racing, when you put yourself out there. Like,
Yes.
we all go, "Good idea." Yep, bang, and then there's lots of those waves of moments of realizing, have I yeah, have I pushed myself too far? Am I going, stretching too far than
Yeah.
what you're ready for? Because you can push yourself, but then sometimes you want that as well. The those shit sort of moment of like being scared about what that challenge is. And I think that was for me that even going back to that 50 to 100 was that shift. Even though I might have been doing multiple marathons, it was still an unknown because there was no knowledge of other people doing it to be able to look at them and go, oh, okay, cool. Because I think at that stage for me, it was like, you hadn't done 100 and everyone's signing up. It was like, oh, we're in for this, but
Mm.
not seeing the result of it. Whereas if it was like 2 or 3 years later, it would have seen it and then gone, okay, that's something probably I can do. So even that first one doing was a big unknown exercise around what happens at 60, 70, 80 kilometers.
Yeah.
So we hadn't heavily crossed paths in doing lots of trail running together.
No, the trail running piece, not so
Yeah,
much. Like,
yeah.
so on the fringes in
Yeah, there might be a one
road
crossover
running
run or
stuff.
somewhere there at that point in time, but it wasn't a major sort of crossover.
Not at that time.
Knew of who was around doing sort of components, but it just think weekends and dates and times weren't something that was on a regular pattern because that sort of is key part of that as well.
Yes.
What I did see probably in those ladies, I think that's when doing other events. So there was obviously Coastal Classic,
Yep.
Climber, Coastal. There was the Manly Dam series and a few other things. You start to then get, there's a few other people around and connections and start to see a few more sort of people that are from local. And then you go, oh, wait a second, there is, I think that's probably where Seacliff awareness coasters came into and went, oh, wait a second, there's actually like an informal social group that's also around that's doing running in the local area. And that sort of then
because that started with the WDRC.
Yeah.
In my journey, like finding them on Facebook, I think it was a Facebook group.
Yeah.
And then I think from there, I don't know if it was like a search or something, and then found the Seacliff Coasters Facebook, and they had the questions, and
yes,
like, let's check this out.
Yeah, and then they had a couple of social, back then no different. They obviously had different sort of social runs that were sort of going along, and then that was back into again that sort of that imposter sort of feeling, turning up to something that everyone else is these big trail runners that are out there and turning up as being the rookie, sort of feeling of just starting to put your toes into doing some of these things and really looking up to these other runners, trying, oh geez, and then you start to find out about these bigger runs that are out there as well.
Absolutely, because that started definitely from that WDRC, because there was the messenger group, and Jordan was on that, and don't know who any of these people
Well,
are,
yeah.
you know, Craig Mayo and
Yeah.
stuff they talk about, and then, you know, find out Jordan's actually from America and runs like ridiculous events, really fast podiums.
Yeah.
You know, oh, okay.
Love it. Yeah.
Amazing. And, you know, Kurt and Ryan and Matt
Yes.
are off doing, you know, doing 100Ks and whatever.
Yeah.
Like Ryan will just, you know, jump out at no training and go do the Canberra 50K on, like, you know, Darth Vader costume.
Yeah.
Well, I guess like an interesting thing you threw out there was the Hanny plan.
Yeah.
Because I jumped on that as well.
Yeah.
And that was a really great resource because it was basically offered up for free.
Yeah, it was structured, right, too. Like, so you could open it up and see 14, 16 weeks ahead what was potentially required. Yeah. So I had that for the first 100 race that was out. And could see the mission, I think the approach of what needed to be done. So you were talking about like running hills, climbing hills, hiking missions. Yeah. Sort of there was like, oh, wait a second, this is a whole, it was getting pretty serious. And then that kind of led into gear. Yeah. So at what stage did you, it's always going to be the one everyone sort of thinks about when they go to 100 at a UTA is going to be, do I need poles or not? Yeah. So not shorts. Poles. Very clear, right? Because did you think about that during that year, like leading up into it in training?
The pole situation? Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I guess I was pretty ignorant around a lot of gear. I've always been super minimal. So, you know, get away with spending as little money as possible is probably the real crux of it. But yeah, poles was sort of a thing. And I think I looked at it briefly because I think there's a line in their rules saying you can use them here, but you can't use them.
I mean, I think way back then that might have been the case that early there were sort of areas like I think you couldn't use them.
No, that's through all the single track. No, like Prince Henry Cliff 4.
Yeah, that's right. In the landslides.
Once you get to Kadumba, it's
and same as on Megalong up Nellies. So I think that was the same. Back then, there was sort of some rules around that sort of component of where you could. Because I remember always picking them up at 6 foot, which was roughly, I don't know, I think 45, 46 Ks. So again, that's without any awareness. Yeah. I got them only a couple of weeks out. But then, and obviously practice with them. But I think it was always a challenge because you don't have that experience until you're out doing that. And I think the next year is when I started to see there was more training, and maybe that's an evolution of not knowing it is there, and it always was there. It's not until you're deeper into those connections and that socials that are out there or running community, because you don't, how else do you sort of know what's occurring from that perspective? I know there was so the two guys obviously out from Sutherland that were doing, I might have been Run Movement, but I know Andrew Leno at that stage was running tours. So they'd go to a run day, like I know Mountain and Squad Run do. So they would have an on-course run day that you could go, and that sort of thought, that would be a good idea. So I think Natalia and I both went up to one of those. Great. And again, that created another layer of connection, introducing to more runners that were out in the same as you, doing the same thing. And I've still got those connections now, that are out there. But that created some awareness. And I think Andrew was saying would go through how to pack your backpack and how to get your gear sort of compressed down sort of to do that. And at that stage, like you're all ears as a sponge trying to work all those things out. And then that obviously comes experience after that stage. But I think that was about roughly 2017, 18 started.
Because did you do the 100 before me? Like, was it you and then I did it the following year? Because remember, I'm not sure if we were both in it on that first year. Like,
I think we were on the first
time we did it,
doing it, but we were not running together. And
no, because I remember, I think maybe you did the 100 before me, maybe.
Yeah, okay.
In that case, because I remember
maybe went back further on.
It was a case like we just doing our thing. Yeah. I started off in, like, again, gear no idea, right?
Yeah.
And this is where we sort of like I guess split a little bit because I sort of moved away from the savvy stuff. So, trails, I'm just doing it.
Yeah,
you know, read the books and you know, getting you know, whatever information I could from wherever. And then you sort of transferred into that coaching sort of thing, and I was just like off in the mountains. And then went, okay, time to like did the 50 in, you know, these thin like Mizuno with like lugs that are, you know, like nothing. And then I think I then found you know, a super discounted pair of the original like trail goats.
Gotcha.
And then I remember like I'm pretty sure it was the first 100, right? Because I think I've only done it 2 or 3. Anyway, I think I've only done it twice, to be honest. But that first one, the night before, like I think we'd sort of
right?
Remember the night before?
This is not the first year.
It's not. Yeah. Okay. So you did it like I'm pretty sure that's the first
video.
Year.
That video is the video that we shared the other day where I was throwing. Well, I'm not throwing up in the video. But I was throwing up before that. That was not my first.
Okay.
That was 2019.
Yes.
So 2019. So we're 16. So
that was 18. My first 100.
That far behind?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to go fact check afterwards, but we'll ride with this story for now.
Yeah. No, I'm sure. I'm sure of it.
I reckon
right?
You've done one before that because that was the year that we said let's go smash for 14.
Exactly. Because night before.
No,
we were bang. Hey, what do you think?
Out on
like, what do you think? What do you reckon?
Yeah.
Sub 14.
Yeah.
All right. Night before, that's what it was. Let's go.
Yes, it was that, but it was not the first 100 for you. I'm very sure, very sure. But we did give it a go.
Yes,
and paid the price at 18, throwing up, and that was as the video sort of goes. It's quite funny because and this was a part of that. There's the trail humor connectivity that's occurring. And there's 2 snippets that are in that video. Unplanned, don't even know who they are. It's like the first comment is like, you go like, how's you going? I'm like, oh, I feel I'm in the deep, hit the wall, something like that. The 2 guys go past and it's like, not far to go. we know what that is anyway. Like, sure, thanks, mate. And then after that, like it was on, and the next guy goes past as it was like, and it was just an uncandid G up, you know, you're cool, man. Like, you're good. Like, go on. That's what it is, right?
Exactly.
And you go through those patterns, and that's what sort of the challenge draws you back, and the connectivity with the people that are out there, because you meet so many people in connections and friendship that are out there. But that was one of the first times we ran, but we didn't run the whole race together. You left me. Let's be clear about that. That did happen. After about 30-something Ks, I was guzzling Coke at 46, 44, wherever 6-foot track was to reset myself. And then I was okay. But I have a feeling that I still beat you. Down Kandumba. I'm pretty sure that I've gone past you down Kandumba at the end of it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Then I said fact check afterwards.
Because I remember certainly, I think the last time I did the 100, we weren't running it together.
No. Yeah.
And I was like off of an Achilles injury.
Yeah, that's right. And you said you went, and then you went out flat stick.
Yeah. So, I'm not going to finish anyway, so I'm just going to go at it. And so I was just hammering downstairs. People were like, oh, what are you doing? You're crushing it. I was like, I'm not going to finish anyway, so I'm just having fun. And I remember, and then I got to like 20 Ks to go, and I'm like, oh.
I'm like, still again, gone past again. Right?
And that's it. And so I was climbing up that last 5K in the dark. And I don't even hung out during the race at all. No. And then, because it always sucks when you're in the dark and people you're going past, you're just passing and people look at you. Don't. So I'm always really conscious of that cruising past. And then I just remember, and look, I'm struggling in that last 5Ks because I just burnt it out. Going, it's not going to finish, but I did. And then I remember this dude passing me up that last 5K, like in the single track, and I went, "Is that Bilboe?" and I'm just like crying and just
The only way now
like,
is on Strava. We
whatever.
go back and look at that fly through where you sort of fly through, and you can see the two objects chasing each other around, and a way to work out whether or not it was. And even though we have that much connections runs sort of together, when it gets to those things, it's odd. Like we just end up going and do our own run, we cross paths or not, and that's just been the way that in those types of races, to date. So journey wise, obviously, this is all still sticking around. We're talking about UTA because obviously it's 100, that sort of early stages of getting into those types of longer distance sort of format runs. Past those first couple of years, what then did what challenges, what were you looking at trying to do? You're telling me you haven't done it, the 100 for a couple of years, so I'm like a bit sort of confused. But somewhere in there, you've ticked 100 or two. When did your mindset sort of then look into other things? Because you can just keep repeating 100. Like, what other adventure? How did you sort of drift off into other races, other things that are out there?
Yeah, because I get bored. Like I get easily bored. I think I'm like and that's why the trails are so awesome for me.
Yeah.
Because cool, explore. Cool, explore. Set my own goal. Set my own and it doesn't have to be a race.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be an event. Just let's do this.
Because you haven't always had like running in a group. Like,
no,
I've always been whether it's been Savvy Runner or a clique of runners, and sort of gone to a spot and had 2 or 3 sort of with me. So you've obviously had your own individual approach to doing that and motivation to do that.
Yeah.
What becomes a stimulus of, that's what I'm trying to get at, an insight to of, it's adventure mode, but then is it just is that just Wiffen goes, I want to go do this crazy thing? Is that how it gets planted? You've got to.
Well, like I said, like I found out about hundreds and thinking that was, that benchmark. Who can run more than 100 Ks, right? That's crazy. And I want to do that. That became the goal. And so, but thinking like self-limiting, I guess, thinking that, I don't have time to train for that. So, sort of stuck with that 50 for a little bit. That was, okay, what was, okay, go back, see if I can do it quicker.
Yeah.
And then who cares, right?
Yeah.
So what?
And then you start to learn that you can't do it.
Friend.
Yeah, so that you were saying earlier, you can't do it. No. Because every year, every time, it is different.
Yeah.
But you still try.
So you can
some of us still try.
different ways to do that same thing, or you find something else.
Yeah.
And so then I learnt about the 100-mile distance and went, okay, that sounds interesting.
So you secretly.
Well, no. So if I preempt where you're going with that, but before that, because at the UTA Expo, there was this new event, or I assume this new event. There was a couple of new events actually. The Guzzler was starting; they had a stall, and the Elf Trail Race had a stall. Yes,
yes.
And so I sort of checked that out and went, that's cool.
That's right.
Ended up entering a competition with them. Because Mick was living with me at that time. So Mick moved in, and so we were doing heaps of runs together.
So that's part of
and that was awesome. Like it was because we were living together. We were just like vibing off of each other and just doing stuff. And he was we started like inventing sort of can we start a YouTube channel, because he really wanted to push his Indigenous roots and go like like there's the Indigenous Marathon project, but there's nothing for trails. Like, I could do something. I'm like, dude, let's go. So we were doing stuff together. And so we both entered this competition for the NTR, right?
Yeah.
And we both won it.
Yeah.
we both just like so weird, like just randomly, just how they did it. So we won a ticket into the thing.
So ATR is
the Elephant Trail Race, Port Macquarie,
north.
North. So we entered that, and so I'd never done any other event than UTA, right? So you've got that UTA standard, and like I said, I have aside from road races, so I have no idea how the world works. Like I said, I thought a marathon was actually more akin to a triathlon, right? I had no idea. So I went, cool, I'll just do the miler.
Yeah.
It's another 60 Ks or so. It's fine, right? And so Mick's like, awesome. I'll do the 50 and we'll go up together. We'll get a little Airbnb or whatever and just, you know, so we went up and big difference, right?
Yeah.
So the Elephant Trail Race is not well established.
Yeah.
I don't know what year it was.
Yeah.
I think it might have been the first year they did their 200K or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I was standing at check-in and this lady was talking to me and she was like freaking out that I was wearing the belt buckle from UTA. She's like, I've never seen people wear it. I'm like, why else would you get it? Of course I'm going to wear it. And she's talking about the only reason.
Excellent.
Yeah, like, whatever.
Here's my bronze.
And she's like, the only reason I'm doing this race is to get stones for UTMB because at that time UTMB wasn't what it is now, and you get stones at all different races and you know whatever. So she was just doing that. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, what? And so I sign up and it was hilarious. They're like, oh, you're doing the mile. Okay, here's your kit. And they give you like 3 gels, like 3 other gels as part of the thing. That's your nutrition. And you've got all your gear. Yep. I'm like, okay. So I'm thinking, you know, the UTA party, come, you know, go to the aid station, do chips and lollies. And that the first few UTAs, again, very different to now, come to that middle aid station of the 50, and it's a smorgasbord of cakes and biscuits and lollies and Coke and like all amazing stuff. That's what I'm thinking. Going to Elephant Trail Race, you're doing this loop, started in the middle of the night.
And like, that was the biggest difference.
This sucks. Come into aid station and they'd have some watered down nutrition and a couple of like bits of, you know, cut up banana. I'm like, I'm going to do 160 Ks on this. So I'm cruising along. And I didn't bring anything. I just went, okay, because
ride with
in UTA doing the 100, never changed my shoes, never changed clothes. Never,
right, because you can't, like, there's the window where you can, you
just go and do it and pick up the stuff that you need along the way.
And there is enough on the course,
absolutely,
to be able to, from fueling perspective,
I'm thinking that's what it is. No, go into ETR and I'll hate on that event a lot, right? But I know a lot of people love it. It's like but
that's because your experience of that was obviously very different to what you had.
My expectations were in the wrong place, right? I had no idea. So I went in, started 10 o'clock at night. Went, cruise along
straight across the rock section.
And the flagging, like the trail marking was not like UTA. Like there was bits that had fallen off, and when you cut, there was no cross and arrows or anything. I'd just be in the dark. And bang, I'd run into a tape and go, where was the turn? Like, okay, go back. And so halfway through the first lap, I'm like, this sucks.
There must have been messaging. So I remember you going through, and then I checked in somewhere stage because I knew you were going to do it. And then I remember seeing a message about that, no, it's already over. And it was already, and it wasn't, I don't think it was even the morning.
No.
You made a decision.
First lap.
Yeah.
First lap. Like, and the laps are like 25K. I sort of got, and they had the thing at the time called Death Valley or whatever they call it. And I remember going down that section. They just send you down this rock face. There was no trail or anything. It was just like, so and there's like kind of like, because it was real rocky. So there was like these little twiggy trees that were sort of there with little flagging on them. And you sort of go past and they just fall over and rocks would tumble down your feet. And so I'm like, I'm going to kill myself. This sucks, right? And I think it was about, 13 Ks in. I'm in the dark, turn my headlight off, going, this is crap, and just sort of started walking. And then got to the end. And like I said, I totally own it at this stage. It's because you go into different events now and you go, oh, like you don't know what it's going to look like. Well, is it going to be marked? Is it not going to to be marked? Are you going to turn wrong?
You set some standards on how to approach things. So
very different.
In some of the bigger races that you've tackled as well, which I think they all head that direction.
Yeah.
But I think that's the difference of, as you say about UTA and having it obviously well serviced from that perspective, sort of sets a different mindset.
Absolutely. If that's your first introduction into trail events, you're going to be set up for a little bit of, if you then go off to do other things.
Yeah. And being mindful of that. And they're the things, obviously, as we go through episodes, we'll talk about and keep mindfulness around those types of things.
But I
because
got
it's
back
not
to the
always
race hub,
perfect.
right?
Yeah.
And went, okay, no, I started down on the second lap and sort of got halfway down the trail and then sort of stood there and just went, nah, this sucks.
So you got yourself through. So and this is interesting because, you know, even though it's the depth of the conversation, but you went to the aid station, you then realize there's still not enough fuel at the aid station to do what needs to be done. But the mindset still goes, oh, that's okay. I'll work myself out. And go going. And then get a little bit further. And then reality sort of sets in, you know, that because you get the hype of obviously going to an aid station. There's finally probably support crew and people that are around at that stage. You say, come out the other side of it and then gone, no, it's not a good idea.
No.
And then pack it
But that's
up.
it. So I went back to the race hub
and
I sort of found a blanket and just sort of laid, because Mick dropped me off. So I didn't have a car or anything. I'm like, I'm not doing this.
When's the 50? Like so that's like
next morning.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm at like maybe 1 o'clock in the morning. Probably not even that late. It was probably midnight. I don't know. And I'm like, I'm not going to call him and say, hey, get out of bed, because he's going to eventually.
As well.
So I just tried to sleep for a bit.
Work out where you are.
It was just stupid. And Matt, the race director, sort of went, oh, it's a hard course. I'm, no, it's not hard. It's just shit. There's no flagging. There's no course mark. It's been a little wind up.
Thanks for your donation. Well, actually, I did pay for the ticket.
And then so I laid down, and then eventually the morning came, and Mick turned up, and I was ready. Got up, and he's walking up, and he's like, oh, what are you doing, brother? I said, give me the keys. So I'm not doing it.
Not done.
Have fun. And then I just went and I drove back to the Airbnb, and then eventually I got back up, went back, and then completed a couple more loops, right? I just went, what else am I doing? Because Mick's out there doing his loops, and I went back, and again, race director's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to do a few more laps. He's like, but I'm going to DNF you. Like, you can't, I'm like, I don't care, man. I'm just out here having time. It's fine. And so I went and done a couple more laps.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
It was heaps nicer in the day.
Yeah.
But it was funny because that rocky trail where there was no trail, by the time I went back the second, I think I ended up doing like 4 laps. So I only had to do another 2 laps and it would have been finished, right?
Okay.
But yeah, getting down that trail then, what started as no trail, by the end of it, it was very clearly rutted in by all the people.
Because the loops of people that are going around on it.
So I did that, and then I got to the last loop I was doing, and it was like getting cut off, and then it was done.
So that was your deep throw.
Yeah.
To obviously a mile, 160.
Taking that step up.
Yeah, from that side of it, and then the rattleness, knowing that then didn't go the way that you expected to be, and like you've gone to obviously a longer distance sort of race. When you went again to think about what to do as your next event, was it going back to the depth of that, or did you sort of navigate other races sort of around that sort of time?
No, again, and this is the story that I don't like telling, because I got my qualifier, and I put it in, and then bang, I thought I'll set a 5-year plan, a 7-year plan to get to this big draw card race. Okay. Put my ticket in, and it just came up. Western States. Let's go.
And then obviously that's the pressure now to get yourself prepared for that type of event. Which is now we're having to.
And I guess it's good that it happened. ETR was the failure.
So it became a little bit more. I still focused to then knowing that, wait a second, this thing can be a lot harder or more difficult to navigate. I would say that your approach to them may still be sort of the same. Knowing how that works over the years. But
how are you?
But knowing that that's going to be in front of you, sort of just gave you a little bit more sort of clarity to know that you need to make sure you take care of yourself and fuel and those things before you sort of to be able to complete.
And do the research on the specific event.
The terrain and all the things that sort of go around with that as well. Knowing beforehand what's available on course, what's there, because that's with traveling events. They're the things that you don't know.
No,
when
that's
you go to
right.
those types
And particularly when you start looking at international stuff
Yeah.
where the languages are different,
Yeah.
it's harder to
Yeah.
get the information, being a bit more prepared,
Yeah.
doing the research. Because it is, you can just get locked into, I just got to know what the elevation is to the course profile and what the trails are.
Yeah.
Like, is it technical? Is it via trail? All that sort of stuff, because then I know how to train to it.
Yeah.
But there's more to it than
Yeah,
that, like what does course marking look like? What, like, am I going to get, like, do I have to do some navigating?
Yeah.
Do I have to bring all my own nutrition?
Yeah.
What's the length between these aid stations as well? Like, how much fuel do I need to carry between them?
Yeah. I think seeing, and this is where for myself, I saw the ETR, and I'm like, okay, I sort of knew I don't think I knew that you were doing the mile, but I knew the course started late, and then I saw that happen, and I'm like, oh, and I knew that was the miler, and then I'm thinking that's a long way, but you're giving it a go. Then it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But then after you going through Western States was then for me probably what opened my door to go, wait a second. It's not that if Josh can do it, but it's like someone's done it that I know that's in and around the same zone. And I'm like, okay, that's possible, but I hadn't picked when.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's something, because I've been asked prior. I was like, no chance on doing that, 100.
But that's the thing
enough.
too, because that's what I'll always say. Because I'm no one, right? Like, I'm just the fat kid from housing projects.
Yeah,
like,
never mind of my life. But it's
just
about
no idea about anything, right?
Yeah.
So if I can do it, if you have the full capacity of your legs, or of your body, of your
and even
mental
not
capacity,
like, potentially,
then anyone can do it.
Yeah.
Just what is that goal? What do you want to do? Do the research.
Yeah.
Work out how to do it and go do it.
You can put the steps in place, which they sort of work themselves out.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's you can put unrealistic things.
Yes.
But then there's
well, that's the difference, right?
Yeah.
Am I going to do 100 Ks at UTA in 9 hours?
Yeah.
Am I going to finish 100 Ks in the very generous, what is it, like 29 hours or whatever it is? 100%.
Yeah.
Almost
maybe not with like I haven't done any work and I'm going to go out in 4 weeks. There's a very different
couch to 100K. No.
Yeah.
Like I said, like my journey, like, oh wow, there's 100K. Like, people do 100Ks. That's wild.
Yeah.
Ooh, hang on.
I've done some foundation work to that. I've built up, and then these are big step ups, but they're coming from obviously a load of running, consistency, and training that sort of happened prior to that. It's allows those things to then happen, I suppose.
Yeah.
I think that's when you came back from that. Obviously, that was a whole adventure, and I'm sure we'll get into episodes talking about these types of races that we've had.
Yeah.
But the door opener of that was then, okay, that's something that I could do, and waiting and looking at different events of what to go do. And for myself, it was then just timing of things. UTK, Ultra Trail Kosciuszko came up. I'm like, okay, that's inaugural year. This is the first one. It's like, just do it.
Yeah.
And then I knew that I'm going to do this and I can get a pacer. The most appropriate person to get is someone that's done that previously. So we are going into all the race. Great experience in doing that. So having to support someone, because I don't think you've had a pacer in any of your races. Not yet. What do you see in that connectivity? I mean, this is what pulls all that sort of together. So the insights of seeing someone else succeed in what they're actually doing. So whether it's a social run through to pacing.
Man, and that's what I say. Like that was an awesome experience, right? And that's where trail running for me is very. It's not about racing. It's not about being the fastest. It's not about all that. There's so many levels of engagement there. So just strapping that pacer bib on and supporting you through that was so good. Like, and we shared those at that time at night. Broken poles, like all the stuff that I'm sure we'll get into. And it's just the same as I was talking about, introducing people to different trails.
And for me, it was an introduction to a longer race. So
Yeah.
it could have been, oh, just take Michael on a 5K trail.
Yeah.
But it was like the other side of it was taking Michael through the back half of a miler for the first time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
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 So, you know, that sort of stuff, you know, I could go out and do UTA 50 again, or I can support my friend through it and help them.
Time,
I don't care about like what my Strava score is, or what's it called?
The index or
score.
all the things that sort of go with that.
Like that's an experience.
Similar to, I think, you know, with David, that when I took him through the 100 as well.
Because you've done a lot of that, you know, like you've brought a lot of people on the journey and brought them into this and sort of, you know, facilitated that.
Open the door sort of thing, but it's like you're basically, you know, someone's like, oh, it's not possible. It's like, well, no, it is. The reality is, yes, it's some work and it's got to go through, and it's not being naive to what's probably in front of you at the time, but it is possible. And then if you can help someone through that and they opens, wow, you know, and that's also an experience. We can talk about big runs, but I suppose it's not about the big ultra sort of component. I suppose the root of that is what keeps you coming back to doing that. Like with endless trails is obviously what we've used. So that endless journey, what do you see as being part of that keeps at the core, that keeps making you sort of go back every week, every other day?
Yeah.
You know, out there.
Yeah. So I think it's a multifaceted approach for me, right? Like there's that exploration that like at the core of it is probably, you know, enjoying life.
Yep.
Like we've got the one life. Well, what are you going to do with it? Like I talked about Mick, right?
Yeah.
Mick lived with me.
Yeah.
And Mick's gone.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and he was younger than me.
Yeah.
And you know, you never know when that's gonna drop off, right?
Yeah.
So what are you doing with your life?
Yeah.
And I don't think trail running or ultra running is like a be all and end all, and I don't think everyone should do it. If you're interested, like get into it,
take a couple of steps,
do something
and
rad,
then, as we sort of say, is like just it takes a little bit of a trigger for someone to enable that. You know, next second you're in deeper to that, to the trail, to the journey that's actually out there.
And find like something that drives you there. For me, it's like I didn't have to go and do UTK and get a medal for it because I'd supported you with that. Yeah, that's just as good as going and doing it myself.
Crewing too. Like again, and that's the same sort of process that that allows someone else, to achieve like their goals.
Because I went back to ETR, back to Elephant, and like crewed a couple of the boys, like Mick and Rod, right? Rod will have different things to say about what I did there, but the intention was there. And then and also have jumped on to the WTF went and just volunteered. So there's all those different facets of this community, of this sport.
So the connections, so not just the activity.
And do you think it's changed for you? Because, you've done about 400 marathons, like actual official road marathons. Yeah. Was that drive there different? Because I think, there's certainly an element of pushing for PBs or pushing to do better or doing a course better. Marathon's a marathon, doing the road. Has that shifted now? Like you've got some seriously lofty goals now, which again we'll get to, but it has that.
It has to. It has to shift. I mean, you can't do it all, and I think a couple of years ago when you decide, okay, what really do you want to take? Time goes quickly, and you go back and realize, can I keep doing this and do all of it at the same time? And it's like, no, it's not possible. Yes, maybe at the smaller volume of distances, and I can do a 50 and I can do, a couple of marathons. Okay. But when you start pushing that longer distance and trying to recover, that it takes a toll, at the end of the day, and you just don't get your A performances if that's what you still want to have. And it's not always just about the A performance. It's, you want to have a good experience doing that race as well. So definitely, the marathons are dropped off from that perspective, because I've done I think COVID was probably in the midst of that sort of window where I'd done a couple overseas marathons. I'd done the exploration because doing the same race, I think got 10, I pushed myself to 10 Gold Coast because it was the 10th.
That's right.
Right. And then it was like, that was my last. I got my PB at Sydney. I think it was the year before that. And that was like, okay, that's my last Sydney. The course changed. So there were some things that happened around that sort of time. But then at the same stage, it was like turn right. And then like I went backyards and into milers and a few other things at the same time. But I enjoy the journey in that because there's a lot more adventure in that sort of area and connection. It's hard on I think the marathon side on the road is that you got your connections, it's over and done with. You do your race, you do your 5-10 minutes worth. After even training, it's the same scenario. People, that time window is very tight and you're on effort. You don't get much conversation around that at the same time. Whereas on the other side, it's totally different. I think that's more become a lifestyle component and that identity you're sort of talking about of what you're actually doing. I think that's the direction that I'll continue in that area into trails and just trying to find that limit. There's always a hunt to see how far or how big or how challenged. It doesn't always big in scale. That's about there's a size of a challenge and you just want to set that challenge bigger than what you're doing now. And sometimes that's in a formal format. Sometimes it's in a, hey, I just want to go do this and set a big expectation for yourself. And if you were going back to young Josh, would you navigate any of those, flip and say any of those experiences differently? But would there be a different approach to what you might have been doing? Say, if we said flip back 10 years and go, I started this trail running experience, and would you have changed some of those things that you're sort of doing at that time?
Maybe, like, every now and then I sort of think about, like certainly, the first 50 experience was perfect. Like, it was amazing. I got this footage of me collapsing over the like the finish line, crying because my calves locked up. Like I said, I pushed from that very back of the pack to the point where I was sort of running with some of the first wave people, and I was like, could I have given it a bit more of a nudge if I'd trained differently, if I'd been more competitive? Could I have, done something more in that space? But it's usually pretty fleeting. That thought. Certainly, I think I like doing what I'm doing now with, creating the adventure, creating the experience, looking for something more. If I'd been able to do some of that a little bit earlier, maybe that would be the change. Not so much in the overall everything, because like I said, I absolutely love it. Every time, sometimes it's really hard to get out of bed or to get out the door or whatever, but every time I go up on that escarpment and bomb down a trail or hike up one, or it's amazing.
That's auto.
It was raining, sunny, too hot, too cold, doesn't matter. Like it's awesome.
So the experience just automatically turns on. Regardless of what that actually
is. Which is why it doesn't have to be an event, like, hey, what do you reckon we do run 100 miles over New Year's? Cool, I'm there. Let's go. There's no medal.
Experience.
There's no one's going to say, "Oh, you're amazing," or there's not like a big crowd of people saying. It's just let's go and do something awesome. Like, and that's been the big shift for me is do rad stuff.
So it didn't have to be about like I'm not saying medal chasing, but from at the end of the day, it was like your advice going back to them is you're on the right track. It was fine. Maybe I could have done a little bit more adventuring, but then you might not have known about it either. No. And I think that's sort of sort of similar to where I sort of myself is that try to do multiple different things. That's okay at that point in time. That was what I was doing. And that led me sort of to where I am now. So I don't see too much about, obviously anyone would have wished I could have done that earlier to have more. That's always 100%. Going to be the case. But that journey, that friendships, those contacts that I all made through that period of time creates the where I am now sort of situation. If you're then having that advice to someone who's starting, those first early years. I think we're in 2025 has a different mode
Yeah.
to what it was then, because we had less, I want to say less resources, but different types of resources, and you have a lot of things
Stimulus
in your
was very
face
different.
now.
Yeah.
What do you see that look like now? Like, what's your advice around if someone was going to go, hey, I want to go on the trails, and probably splitting that to two things. One, into just get into trail running and exploring. But then that next little bit of tier is when someone wants to really start to push that longer sort of distance. So what's your
That's
two
well
points on
framed,
that?
I think. That's well framed
Yeah.
because, that advice to me 10, 15 years ago would be very different to the advice I give to someone, and the two different different formats, right?
Yeah.
I think, if you are thinking about trails or you are thinking about ultras, then do it. Like set the goal and go for it. Don't be afraid, because it is super achievable
and accessible.
It's so accessible, and there is so
no
much
entry.
resources out
That's
there,
right.
right? Like and the community is so awesome that you can have a chat to. Like, I'd welcome anyone to come in, sit with us here, and have a conversation
Message,
over
DM. It's the end of the day.
Anytime.
All that's there.
It's so accessible, so easy to get involved in. And is it just, you can just go and do a little 5K. So I think it's so accessible, just get into it. But that next level where, like, I've seen and hear about it far too much, that people are like, sign up for a 20, sign up for a 50, sign up for a miler. Like, and within a year, they've gone from 5K parkrun to 100 mile. And usually to injured.
To the burnout component, and then it's a long time to come back again, to do that again.
We don't have a lot of time, but we do too.
That's right. You miss the joy or the adventure sort of component to it, because you become focused over a short period of time of training and not the adventure sort of component of it. Whereas if you've got the capacity to be able to just go adventure in that sort of area, that's then the joy. So I think I was only listening to, I think the guy that came second on UTMB was talking about just the happiness, that if you're happy while you're running, or the joy that you have, that opens up everything else that you can potentially achieve. So in my probably advice is, for someone that's starting, get into connections. The connectivity part sort of creates that consistency. So whether it's the social runs that are around, obviously, say Cliff exists, who have social runs, Chasing Trails. So this is for, obviously people that are Illawarra, but that type of community exists, nearly everywhere. And then you'll find people that have similar interests and connectivity to what you're actually doing. And that creates that consistency, which is really the foundation to, to getting into more trail events or racing. And then it's probably parallel in the going longer is you see a lot, especially if they're transitioning from road to trail. I think that's important, just being careful of letting your body catch up to what you're actually trying to do. So aerobically, you can actually get quite fit. But the bone density and all those things, I'm not into all the health of it, but that's what I normally see is like year 2, year 3 is the period of time where there's lots of injuries that happen. So within the runner base, and just be mindful of that when you're going into doing longer distances, and letting the body physically sort of catch up to what you're trying to do. And that might be doing more, but maybe not as far, building that base before you try to extend the limits that are out there.
It's one of the first pieces of advice they give you when you're training for an event is not to get caught up in that start line frenzy, right? You have your goal. Don't get caught up in the excitement of it and go, oh, right, I've got to do 100 miles. Enjoy the journey.
Excitement in the journey component.
Doing a 5K trail event or doing no event, just going and doing a 5K trail is amazing. Enjoy that journey. And if that's all you ever do and you love it, then that's awesome. You don't have to do 100 miles. You don't have to do 200 miles. You don't have to do any. You can go and do a backyard event and do one lap. Fine,
or open it up in a format that allows you to find some limits in that as well.
Yeah, but
Yes.
know your why
Yeah.
and go for that, and just stay focused and centered, because if you go too hard on someone else's goal, that's when you're going to break.
That's right. Sounds like good advice to get endless trails. Cool.
Will we wrap it?
I think I have no idea how long that went for.
No idea.
But this is
there
how
might be some aggressive editing.
this is how it's going to flow. I
Exactly.
think at the end of the day. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us on Endless Trails. We hope today's episode gave you a glimpse into how everyone's journey has a different start and a different path.
If you enjoyed our banter, hit the follow or subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.
If you know someone who's just taken their first step or maybe needs that little push, share this episode with them.
We'll be back soon with more stories, gear talk, conversations about trails, trail runners who inspire us to keep moving forward one step at a time.
Until then, lace up, find your trail, and remember,
Journey never ends. Done.